Today we're talking about this one, book number 40, The Other. It's a ghost-written book once more, and it's written by Gina Gascone, just going to call you Gina. Why do they keep picking people whose names I can't pronounce? Why can't it be Janet Smith? I don't know, but that's what it is. You'll notice that I've now got a bit of a different setup. I've been decorating, so I've now got them up there. I've now got next week's book over here on the shelf, and the book in question is here to my right this time. Make things a bit easier. But yeah, that's that out the way. What about this book? Well, let's cover Gina's writing first off. Firstly, she has a very distinctive writing style, very distinctive. And I noticed it about a third of the way through. I thought, she uses a lot of punctuation in a bit of a different way than the others have. So, I mean, there's that. Is it positive or negative? No, it's neutral really, just distinctive. How does she handle the characters? Not good, in my humble opinion. And we will find out why. So let's go into the plot of this one, shall we? We start off with all the Animorphs doing their own thing. Jake and Rachel are away. Cassie's at a meeting at the gardens with her Honda Jazz driving mother. So Marco's just sitting at home watching television. Great, lovely. And he flicks over, and then suddenly he goes on to like America's stupidest home videos or whatever it is, and he sees something come through. It's an Andalite, pretty bad quality 90s potato phone camera version of an Andalite running through a field. And he's like, oh shit, that's it, we're all in great danger now. So he rushes upstairs, morphs bird of prey, and flies out to see Axe and Tobias. And Axe records, this is a bit of trivia, Axe records every channel all the time. He just, for whatever reason, I suppose because he just wants to watch everything, which is fine. So he's recorded this and he looks back at it and they're looking at it thinking, hold on, that's not me. And Tobias says it's not Estrid or Arbat or any of those other Andalites we saw back in 38, nor is it Visser 3. So these are Andalites we don't know. And then I forget who points it out, I think it might be Tobias. But he says, hold on a minute, that Andalite has a lot of the tail missing. Tail blade's gone, half the tail bloody missing. And Axe immediately sort of goes, ugh, a vehicle, ugh, get it away. And Marco understandably is like, hold on a minute, what? Why the sneering? And Axe is saying how in Andalite culture, they're seen as less than Andalites. But I was about to say less than human, but that wouldn't be true. Less than Andalites. They have a talk about this Andalite. They say, obviously, it could be a trap, or it could be that he could be an ally, and he could have information on Visser 3. Or alternatively, he could have information that Visser 3 might want. So they think, all right, we might as well go see what's going on here. To which Axe says, a Vikol as an ally? Marco, was that meant to be humorous? Because it was not. But then I gotta say, Marco on page 17 says something a bit hypocritical, which we are used to from Marco at this point. In spite of the famous throughout the galaxy Andalite honour, this guy could, as we know, quite possibly be a traitor. The whole videotape thing might be a trap for us unsuspecting, big-hearted humans who respond to creatures less fortunate than us with empathy and kindness. Respond to creatures less fortunate than us with empathy and kindness. Marco, do you remember how you treated David back in book 20? A guy who was pretty much objectively less fortunate than yourself. Did you treat him with empathy and kindness? No! So shut your grid, you hypocritical little twerp. So Marco, Axe and Tobias fly out to where Tobias thinks that this place is. Turns out to be the right place. Quite convenient, but then again, he spends all his time flying around, so yeah, fair play. They find this place, and they're searching around. They can't see anything. And then Marco says, right, we've got half an hour left in morph time. So instead of flying 10 minutes and finding somewhere safe, we have to demorph now, so we don't get trapped in morph, which seems a bit silly. And Tobias is keeping a lookout, but as per usual, he does a crap job. Until the last minute, where he spots something coming up that whacks Marco. It's like a raccoon or something like that. And then that creature, of which I'm pretty sure is a raccoon, demorphs. And suddenly there's this big, bulking, bodybuilder Andalite. You know, proper. It's like the Dwayne Johnson of Andalites. He pops up. And then Axe is also demorphing nearby. And this big, bulking Andalite, fucking all this, starts squaring up to Axe. Tobias instinctively goes down and goes for his eye stalks and tries to claw off his eye stalks, but Tailblade of this hulking great Andalite, whammo, Tobias down. Okay? I want to pause here to actually say this is a good part of the book. And do you know why I say that? Because remember at the start of the series where Andalites were seen as these almost godly, like, oh, they're coming to save us, the Andalites are the trustworthy, they're the good guys. And we're at the stage in the series now where at the slightest sign of anything wrong, Tobias is just, right, go in there, rake his eyes out. I like it. It just shows how far the Animorphs have come and how little they trust the Andalites at this point. But anyway, Tobias is down. Marco is thinking that he's dead. And then Axe starts having a chat with this big Andalite whose name is Gefinilan. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong, but it's alien language, so I can pronounce it however I want. I can call him Flibberjabber. I'll call him Gefinilan Freeze, okay? But all the while, Axe is just standing there having a pleasant chat with this guy. Turns out that this guy has a lot of military honours, and he's a pilot, and he got struck down with the dome ship that Axe was on. So there are a bunch of fighters off this ship, and his fighter went down with another pilot. Two ships went down together. So they're the only other survivors of this dome ship, and they've just been sort of hanging out down here. But Gefinilan says, right, I'm with this guy called Myrtle, who's this other pilot that came down with me. Leave us the hell alone. We don't want anything to do with you, and if we see you again, you're fucked, okay? And then he walks off. But Marco, Axe and Tobias don't buy that. They don't like that idea. So they follow him. And they eventually find that he goes to this cave where he goes in and morphs human, where he's left a bunch of clothes. It's just a little hole in the ground. And then he walks off. I'm just going to point out that Marco was in wolf morph while they were tracking him when they got to the cave. It was some kind of cave or passage about another metre or so to the right. So the way that's written, it's implying that Marco is about, the group is about a metre away from this, about there, the wall from me. They're about that far from the hole. And then the human comes out, Gefinilan's human morph comes out and doesn't see him. He doesn't know that Marco's this hulking great wolf, a metre away from the hole. No sign of any wolves here. What the fuck? It just comes across as a bit lazy. So, of course, they continue to follow Gefinilan, or Henry, as his human name is. They find that he lives in this little suburban house somewhere, just an average little place. So Marco, Axe and Tobias are still tracking him. They're there as birds of prey, and they're sort of swooping around, looking at what's going on. And then Marco does something pretty un-Marco-like on page 44. So what's happened is he's seen Gefinilan in his own body in this greenhouse that sort of stretches out from the back of his home. And Marco decides he's just going to go down there. Tobias landed in a huge oak tree on Mr. Henry McClellan's property. Not that I can see, just Gefinilan pruning some leaves or doing something with garden shears. He seems pretty focused. Then I'm going in closer, Marco says. Marco, I'm not sure that's a great idea. What if he looks up? What if he doesn't? I countered. Look, this guy gives me the major creeps. I want to know as much as I can before I meet him on his turf. Okay, but... No buts. I was going to get up close and personal with the roof of the greenhouse. I glided lower, lower. Eyes strained to catch every detail I could when... Zap! Ah! I hadn't even touched the glass, but you get the thing. Basically, Marco has done a Rachel. Well, you know, I could stand back and think about this while, or I could just go in there and fuck the consequences. Oh no, I've been zapped. What a kerfuffle. And then he falls on the ground. And Gefinilan notices, of course, and points a shredder at him. And he orders Marco to demorph, which he does. And then Marco does another not very Marco thing. Not doing well here, Gina. So he's having a chat. He's demorphed, so he's himself, and he's talking to Gefinilan. The andalite that gave me the power to morph is dead, I told him flatly. And I'm not sure you should be calling anyone else a criminal. You know, let heroes without fault throw the first stone and all that. What are you implying, human? Suddenly, I was more angry than scared. I'm not implying anything. I'm saying it outright. You made some kind of deal with Visser 3. I'm not sure of the details yet, or what you stand to get out of it, but this much I do know. Visser 3 is a yerk. Now you andalites are a smart bunch, you tell me what that makes you. Right, I get where Gina's trying to come from here, and it's almost in character for Marco, but, you know, Marco is the cold calculating one. He sees things as they are. He's got a freaking andalite pointing a shredder at him, and he doesn't trust this andalite, and he's going to go up to him and say, I think you're a traitor. Again, that's more Rachel's style. Marco would be a bit more clever about it than that. Especially at this point, especially when he knows that he could die as soon as he utters these words. Marco, that's not your character. That's a Rachel trait. Stop it, okay? Anyway, they have a bit of a chit-chat. Axe and Tobias are around doing their thing, but it's mostly between Marco and Gefinilan. And he says, I need to talk to your... I told you to leave me alone. I should kill you right now, but I'd be happy to see your prince. So Marco says, no, I guess this conversation is over. And then Gefinilan suddenly says, oh, actually, do you want a brew? Come in for a cuppa, mate. So they walk in and they go into this little private andalite room that's separate from the rest of the house. The rest of the house is clean as all hell. It's like an advert from an estate agent's thing where everything's spotless and neatly laid out. So it's a disguise house, basically. But he goes down to the actual andalite bit where there's grass flooring and all that sort of stuff. And he explains to Marco what's going on. Turns out there's this other andalite called Myrtle, who is the Vicol that we saw in the videotape. And what happened was they were out fighting the Urks up there, and Gefinilan's ship got hit, collided with Myrtle's and brought them both down to Earth where they crash landed and somehow survived. How they survived, who the fuck knows? But I will just point out something that did irk me greatly. It really did, and it shouldn't irk me as much as it did. So Gefinilan's talking about this, and he says, I am Myrtle's protector and friend. After all, he added, his thoughts speak dark, if I had been able to maintain control of my plane, Myrtle might not have suffered as he has. Did you hear that? If I had been able to maintain control of my plane. Plane? What? Plane? It's a ship, you clown. When have they ever been called planes before? This isn't a Spitfire. Jesus Christ. Gina, think before you type. But anyway, he explains that Myrtle got injured in the crash, and he doesn't have the morphing technology, so he can't heal himself. So he's a vehicle forever and ever. And because he went out in the field and got caught on videotape, Visser 3 has captured him. Must have done it very, very quickly, which, I mean, there must have been controllers watching the program instantly like, call up Visser 3's agent, please. Oh, it's you, Visser 3, micromanaging again. Okay. Right, I saw this andalite on TV. Oh, you're there already? Great, good stuff. So Visser 3 has captured Myrtle. So he's with the Urks, okay? He's with the Urks. And apparently they've been sending Gefinilan messages because they've obviously found out where he lives or something like that. Or I don't know, it's not really explained, so it's just a hive of confusion. Apparently the Yerks don't want this andalite. They don't want this andalite because he's got no tail, so he's no use. He's no use to anyone. He can't morph either. I mean, he could be useful for information purposes, hostage purposes, or just as a way to humiliate the andalites even more than they already have, but no. The Yerks just don't want him. Visser 3's just like, garbage. Take it away. And so they say, oh, well, okay, We'll trade you, Gefinilan, for Myrtle. To which Gefinilan says no. But we'll get more to that in a bit. We just know this much of the story so far. So the Yeerks have no use for this Andalite. It's just fucking stupid. And so yeah, that's the state of affairs. I've actually skipped ahead a bit here because we learned that stuff about Myrtle on the second trip to the house. So we'll go back in time just a little bit. Marco decides to not tell Jake stuff because we've never learnt our lesson from that before, apparently. You know, I'd have thought by this point they would know to tell Jake because he's the leader, but no, Marco's just like, fuck Jake, I'll do what I want. Again, he's turning into Rachel. The first time Marco and the rest went to the house, he acquired a bee because there are bees in his greenhouse. So Marco now decides he has a chat with Rachel because of course it would be Rachel. So we've basically got two Rachels operating on today's mission. Marco in Rachel form and Rachel. So he's in the mall. They're all in the mall. They all start off except for Marco and Rachel. He says, look, I don't want to tell Jake this because I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing or what my character's supposed to be like at this point. But I want to go there and we're going to do some more investigation. Just us two because. Why? Because. So they go there, Marco and Rachel. Which is in sticking with Rachel's character. Anytime someone's alone with Rachel, they do something reckless and stupid. But they morph B. There's this whole thing about him getting lost in the hive mind and then getting attacked by a robber, some sort of nasty insect that attacks bees. But nothing happens from that. That's just adding a bit of drama into the mix, which is pretty much unnecessary. They eventually get into the house and find out that there is no Myrtle. This famed Myrtle that Gefinilan has told them about isn't there. This is, of course, before he told them that he was taken by the Visser. I skipped ahead. My bad. Sorry. I'm not perfect. Fucking get over it. So the Animorphs meet up again. Jake is rightly pissed that Marco didn't tell him, as I would be. He should also be pissed at Rachel, but then again, he must have just given up with her at this point. They say, okay, we're going to go back there, and they formulate a plan, because Gefinilan wants to meet Jake. So they give him Jake. He walks up to the front door, everyone's in position in the house, Marco is B again, and he's swooping around the place following Jake around, because Jake knocks on the door, comes in, they have a bit of a chit-chat, him and Gefinilan, and then they head to that Andalite secret room, and the door closes, and Gefinilan demorphs, and then he's looking at Jake. Marco's there as well. He's followed them in. He says, right, why aren't you demorphing? Why aren't you doing that? Jake says, I just want to be in my own body. And then Gefinilan gets upset, starts throwing a major wobbly, grabs a shredder, points it at Jake. Right, I order you to demorph now. So Marco calls in reinforcements. They come charging in at a moment's notice, just crash through the wall, the usual Animorph style. And Gefinilan is basically like, okay, we're fucked. Or I'm fucked. Turns out Gefinilan is suffering from something called Schooler's disease. Something like that, Schooler's disease. Which is a genetic thing, so it can't be morphed away. And he's really starting to suffer from it. He's, can't, you know, he's very shaky, collapses a bit here, there. And this is something that Axe had speculated before after the first time of seeing him, because he was using some sort of root that soothes the pain of that sort of stuff. And he's wondering if that is part of the reason that he's doing what he's doing. He thinks that possibly Gefinilan wants to take the body of another Andalite, morph that Andalite, so that he could be rid of this disease. And he thinks he wants to do it with Jake. So they're standing in this private Andalite room, what have you. And he's there doing that. Animorphs bust in. He surrenders and starts to suffer. So we've confirmed that he's got this awful Andalite disease. This is the point where he tells them the story of Myrtle and what happened, and that Visser has now got Myrtle. And he actually explains to the Animorphs that he was setting a trap. That the Visser had offered Gefinilan a deal. Trade Myrtle for one of the Andalite bandits. That's right. And Gefinilan was willing to do it. He was actually setting a trap for Axe and then probably later Jake. So it was a trap. And they were about to fall into the trap, but they had reinforcements, and Gefinilan didn't really think this plan out too well. But that was that. So he's revealed to them that he was a bad guy, essentially. And he did it because Myrtle is his Shorm, as Tobias concludes just because he thinks it's true. So they're Shorms, and Gefinilan would rather sacrifice the life of another Andalite so that he can get Myrtle back and he can live out the rest of his life with his Shorm. But then the worst part of the book happens. Right, so let's summarise up to this point. Gefinilan was setting a trap to lure one of the Andalite bandits in and trade them in for Visa free. Basically, not quite murder, but close to that of one of these Andalite bandits. They don't know this guy. They've got no benefit of rescuing Myrtle. Okay, they're already suspicious enough as it is. And if they go ahead with whatever plan that they end up coming up with, if they go ahead with it, then they risk their own lives, but also risk being betrayed, because this Gefinilan has already proven that he's willing to sacrifice them for this Myrtle character. He doesn't care about them, he only cares about Myrtle. So with all of this, they decide to help him? I mean, come on, Animorphs. This is just fucking stupid, right? He's literally just said, I was going to send you off to the Urk so I can get this guy back. And you're going to stand up and say, well, we shall go and save him. What? He's a bad guy. He is willing to have you killed or taken into slavery. And you're just going to be like, yeah, we're friends now. Get ready, here it comes. And touchdown! Yeah, fuck you, book. And then it just gets even worse. At least Marco is at least acknowledging the fact that they shouldn't fully trust this guy. Page 100. Fine, I'm here, but let's be clear. I'll actually go back to page 99 and start a bit further back. Jake, I spoke privately. You'd better be aware we're in serious doo-doo if this guy decides to trade loyalties. Marco, we're doing this, Jake says. Fine, I'm here, but let's be clear. What Gefinilan was saying was that he was ready to betray us. What's changed? Okay, he can't fulfill his part of the bargain with the Visser, can't deliver an adult Andalite, but maybe he can cut a new deal if things start going bad. Hand over the human Andalite bandits in exchange for Myrtle. He said he'd work with us, not against us, Jake said tiredly. Are you fucking serious, Jake? Are you fucking serious? I mean, do you not remember Book 18 or Book 38? The last two times you came across Andalites and you got betrayed, did they come up to you beforehand and say, hello, my name is Andalite X and I shall betray you in the future. Nice to meet you. No, they said, I'm the good guy. Wink, wink, mustache twirl, mustache twirl. Except they did the mustache twirling behind a closed door somewhere. Jake, are you a fucking idiot? It's just, no, book. Get back on the floor. No, fucking stupid. And then what happens? We decide to change how ThoughtSpeak works. For plot convenience sake. Great. Love it. They're flying around and they're trying to find out where he is. And because the plot was thinking, right, he's hidden. How the hell are they going to find him? Quick and easy way to find him. Let's just break the rules of ThoughtSpeak. Okay, great. Sorted. So Gefinilan is flying around and he says, because he is my Shorm, I can hear him from the other side of the planet, basically. No? How does that work? Does that mean that Axe and Tobias can do the... So he's hearing Myrtle talking from about 10 miles away just because the plot thought it useful. No, this is like Book 39 where they just changed the rules of how the morphing cube worked.
They're just now doing it with thought speak. We're just ruining all the laws of Animorphs at this point. Book, explain yourself. And then, of course, this book wouldn't be complete without a hackneyed old cliche. And the place was talking about this place where Myrtle somehow told them where he was. And the place was quiet. Too quiet. I mean, book, you're pissing me off now. Get back on the floor. I mean, come on. I get it. It's just a little cliche. Don't get so worked up about it. But you've worked me up to the rage, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Don't give me those bloody hackneyed old cliches, please. So they end up in this old train yard where Myrtle's being kept in a truck. And they sneak in, and turns out there's just, I don't know, it's a camp for Hawkbajir. It's their summer camp. They're all just sort of, they're actually setting up campfires in this place, roasting bits of pine bark over the fire. And they're all just having a bit of a party, so they're walking around. But they spot the Animorphs, and then there's a big scuffle that breaks out. And yeah, there's a big scuffle, basically. That's about the size of it. Marco ends up on top of one of the trailers. He's badly injured. Sees, or thinks he knows where the lorry is, or truck, whatever you Americans say, where Myrtle's being kept. Goes over there, and whoop-de-doo, there it is. And he jumps on top of it. Truck stops, he goes flying off, but luckily Rachel was there and she was able to throw a train carriage into the lorry, breaking it. I mean, come on. I don't understand the logistics of this. So she's an elephant morph, right? Do you know how much train carriages weigh? Well, the only possible way it could have been done was if the truck was going over train tracks at that very moment and she just like pushed one forward. That's the only way that could make sense, but it still seems really unlikely. And it's yet again another Deus Ex Machina that just sort of ruined everything. And that's that. And then Myrtle's in the back and he comes out and they all fly away. And yeah. Why was Myrtle not yerked? I mean, I know you've already said, well, he's pretty useless to us, but if you're just going to be sort of carrying him around everywhere, why don't you just put a yerk in him? I'm sure you've got plenty of yerks hanging around in the yerk pool. Why not? Is that, once again, for plot convenience? Are the yerks really that fucking stupid? Not to have this Andalite in their possession have a yerk in his head. So at the very worst scenario, if he does get rescued, he can pretend to still be Myrtle, and then suddenly, Visser, I've got them. They're in the swimming pool. I don't know. Why not? Why? Fucking yerks, incompetent pieces of shite. They dedicate a chapter to basically yelling at Axe for being a twat about his deformities, to which Axe just doesn't give a shit. And he just says what he has to end the conversation. And then the final chapter, Marco goes to see Gefinilan and Myrtle. Gefinilan's gone out. They're both in the house together now. And he says, once this is all over, once Gefinilan's popped his clogs, why don't you come over and play video games? And Myrtle's like, yeah, cool. And then the book ends. So that was that. I really don't know. I mean, there were parts of this book where I was thinking, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then I was always let down. The whole thought speak thing, that's gone. Why couldn't the morphing cube work? There was some off, just they sort of shrugged it off halfway through the book, saying, oh, some Andalites might be allergic to the morphing technology or what have you. And it's just a bit like, just a bit weak. Because you'd think, oh, just give Myrtle the morphing cube and he can get rid of his injuries. But no, he doesn't even say why he can't use the morphing ability. We're just meant to assume that this weird speculation was correct. Who the fuck knows? But that's, yeah, so Thought Speak and Morphing Cube, once again, dodgy stuff there. The pacing of the book was probably one of the better aspects of it, to be fair. That was one of the only good things about it. And yeah, there were a few moments of excitement. It lacked Visser 3, which is always a positive. But the characters were not in character, especially Marco. He was acting like Rachel half the time. And people have said that this book would be better if it was narrated by somebody else, which I totally agree with. I totally agree with. This would have been perfect for, say, Axe, because he's got the whole, oh, I don't like vehicles thing. Possibly Tobias. Possibly Cassie. Possibly Rachel. Because there was a lot of Rachel moments in this. Why was Marco picked? I'm not so sure. If any of you have been watching Michael Grant's Twitter lately, he recently put up, sometime last month, he basically said Marco was a sociopath. That Marco is a sociopath. But in this book, he very clearly isn't. He has a lot of empathy for Myrtle, especially come the end of the book, and he justifies it saying, I'm just known as the guy with the dead mother. And it's hard to be just known as that guy for some arbitrary characteristic. And obviously Myrtle is known first off for his lack of a tail, for being disabled. So he relates to that. And at the end, you have that nice little moment of him saying, after all this is done, we'll play some video games. So Marco's showing some empathy. I don't think Marco's a sociopath. Michael Grant does have some odd hot takes here or there, even in regards to his own series. So I suppose that's to be expected. I think he's gone a bit senile, but, you know, that's old people for you. As long as he doesn't drive a Honda Jazz, it's all right. Does the book do anything for Marco's character? No. No. He's too out of character for there to be any genuine character development in this. Why does this book exist then? Because these characters, Gefinilan and Myrtle, that's it, they're done. You could say, oh, they're a new faction in the war, but no, they just do their own thing now. They're not involved in the war anymore. It's not like Book 34, where you've established a new Hork-Bajir colony back on the homeworld, where, yeah, you don't see them again, but they are a new faction in this overarching war, so at least there's that. This one, these two characters never really play a part again at all, as far as I can remember. There wasn't really any big game-changing moments anywhere. It is filler. It is utterly filler. Why does it exist? It's a very positive message about not judging people based on their characteristics. For example, in this book, disabled people. I work with disabled people quite a lot, and they're fantastic. You know, they're not less of a person because they have a disability. And this book is basically saying that, which is a positive message, a really positive message. And it's not often anymore we get messages in Animorphs books. They sort of stopped putting messages in the books at around book 23 or 24, about just before the ghostwriters came in, funnily enough. But yeah, this one's got a positive message. There is one other major thing that people will no doubt talk about when it comes to this book. Axe's attitude to the disabled, which is atrocious, let's be honest. His attitude of they are worthless. It's not even worth saving this Myrtle character. Which is, yeah, bad. But in a way I appreciate it, and I've explained this before. Look at it from this way. These characters are flawed. Inherently flawed. People are flawed. Everybody. And we all have our bad traits, and this, of course, is one of Axe's. If he got to the end of this book and he turned around and said, now I respect the disabled, it would just seem a bit unrealistic and a bit sappy. So I appreciate the realism in this, in that even when they come to the end of the book, Axe is still like, well, I still don't really like them. It's realistic. It's not a nice trait, but it's a trait, and it's nice for characters to have traits, good or bad. But it does throw in a little bit of that Andalite culture in there. We're steadily getting to the point now where we just know the Andalites as a bunch of dicks, a bunch of douchebags, a bunch of twazics. They are genocidal, they are snobbish, arrogant, and they are cruel to the disabled. Not great traits, guys, for the supposed goodies of the series. I think we can safely say that the Hork-Bajir are the good aliens in this series now, and they're the ones that the Animorphs are fighting all the time. Well, that's Animorphs for you. There you go. It's a complicated mess, isn't it? So what is Jake's score? I think you've got to take this... the whole thing of just suddenly saying, oh, we're going to help you, Gefinilan, even though you might just betray us. What a fucking stupid move. What a ridiculous move. And him just being so naive. Oh, it's he says we can trust him, so we can trust him. Yeah, no, Jake, that's not the Jake I know and love, mate. And that's a terrible decision. And if things had gone a bit differently, Gefinilan would have probably handed you in, mate. So I'm giving you a 2 out of 10. Pretty damn atrocious today. Because let's face it, Gefinilan isn't a good guy. He was going to give Axin to the Yerks. He's not a good guy. He's a baddie. And we just forgave him for that? Fucking whatever. Anyway, the book. What score do I give it? I like the message. Pacing's good. And there were times where it sort of kept me on the edge of my seat, but that's really all it's got going for it. Apart from that, thought speak logic, largely out the window. Morphing cube, even more of that logic is now out of the window. The stupid decisions, it's just, yeah, it's bad. It's got a 4. A pretty, just bang on 4 out of 10. It's not as bad as The Underground. It's probably pretty close to being as bad as The Underground, but I don't despise it as much as I despise that book. So, yeah, you're a 4. Bad, okay? Anyway, that's it for The Other. Next time, we're going to be looking at this book here. Megamorphs 4, Back to Before. A nice little rhyme. But I'm looking forward to reading this because most people say it's the best Megamorphs book, and I fucking loved Megamorphs 3. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in this one. That's that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and all the other bollocks. And I shall see you next time. Ta-ra!